Hey there, you know who this is, so let's get into it. Eyes up and on the screen. You know the drill. And if this bothers you, be aware that you're triggered by a trigger warning. You'll be okay, I promise. So, the last calls I uploaded had to do with Kayden Monroe and Michael Schomer. We're going to focus back on Kayden. In the preamble before the call, I mentioned that there was a previous call between Kayden and Chuuli that happened several months beforehand. What I'm going to play is that very call. Be aware that there's some editing down of personal info, but other than that, it's complete. You can compare it to the other call to spot the patterns and issues. Here you go.
So we were just going over, Kayden originally thought that this was about him blocking you on Twitter. I've told him no, that I conveyed to you. I didn't think that there was anything malicious in that, and it was probably just a matter of like the timing of when the things that you were tweeting out were being tweeted, and I was right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that actually, if that was like, if that correlated with any recent events.
It did. Look, I don't know if you guys follow what's happened to me this year. I started this year by having a man with 30,000 followers on Twitch systematically going after me, my friends, and my friend's now current girlfriend to the point where it was basically about to ruin like so many lives. And like I'm still feeling like it wasn't until like this past weekend when I took a break away from town did I really just finally get like good sleep. So like I've just been stressed all year as it is, so that was the major reason why I was doing all that stuff, the blocking. But I do wonder why we're here right now though.
I can give a bit of an explanation, Chuuli, or do you want to?
I think it would be better if you did. Personally.
Okay, so Chuuli has been going over some of the past behavior of individuals within the community, specifically based on like vague memories that she had. And for a lot of what she thought she remembered, she didn't think that she had like proof or records of it happening. And she recently came to understand that she does have records of some stuff that she, for a while, was questioning whether it happened the way she remembered. And we wanted to ask your perspective on it because it is a little concerning.
Okay.
I don't know how to really start this. So I think most people here know that when I joined as a content creator, I was very young. I was 14 when I started, and it wasn't until the end of 2020 that I actually became an adult. And I have a lot of memories from those 4 years.
Okay.
And I knew of certain things that had happened to me, certain men that did things like V Omega, who very, very explicitly sent me porn that he drew multiple times. And also, I can't even keep track of who all did things.
It was what, girlfriend at the time, boyfriend?
And then his partner at the time, and then
Digby and Riz.
TP?
Raz, Blue Raz.
No, Raz. No, Digby.
Digby. I was about to say TP. What the fuck?
No, not TP.
I would never imagine TP doing something as malicious as something like that.
And I'm just going to put it bluntly, ever since we grew distant after I became an adult, so like 2022 and onward, I have had very vague negative memories of you, where I knew that you left a negative impression on me in a concerning way, but I could not remember exactly what happened. And the most I had for a long time, because I didn't think I had anything, was one of the times when V Omega sent me porn. We ended up going into conversation about his sexual preferences. I was a 15-year-old, mind you.
Okay.
And I threw out very innocently, because I was 15, I didn't know how damning it was for me to have this knowledge at the time. I very innocently threw out that I knew yours. And that was the crumb of evidence that I had that you had talked about things in front of me that you should not have talked about.
Fair.
But that's all I thought I had. And I went recently. I went into DMs and I found an instance where I came to her very upset it was October of 2019 when I was just about to turn 17.
Okay.
And I relayed to her an instance that had happened that night where you essentially verbally sexually harassed me in a call after my repeated attempts to ask you to stop. And in that same upset tangent that I went on in her DMs, I found that I had talked about 4 other instances where that had happened. One of them being in a Ponder Sprocket stream while she was high. And I went looking for dates of her streams that happened around that time. And the event that I talked about happening did happen. I complained to her that you, as a 27-year-old man, I think at that time, kept making jokes about me, a 15-year-old, sucking on Ponder's dick live in front of everyone. And I told you that made me uncomfortable. And you did it again. Mm-hmm. And then I told you to stop. And you made a joke out of it again. And then when I got very obviously heated after that point, you muted me in the call and then joked about how I didn't have the balls to confront you. And after that happened, I, again, innocently, because I didn't realize just how bad all of this was, I opened another server and talked about how the first thing I saw was someone being sexual. And you, and I think it was Fagos, also in the call. And also, I don't think knew how old I was. Made a joke out of it and talked about how it was like what I signed up for when I got on Discord. And so that is the most concrete proof I have of an event. And I remember in another instance, because again, it was 4 instances that you did this to me, that I, at the very least, I documented, where you started posting GIFs of dildos, and what? I told you to stop, and you didn't, and you defended it by saying that it wasn't sexual because they weren't real dicks. And that was the one time that you backed down, because Ponder was in that call and she told you to stop and you listened to her. But I feel the need to accentuate that every time I begged for you to stop being sexual in front of me and posting sexual things and talking about sexual things, you did not stop.
I'm not saying this to be malicious. I am not saying this. This is a lot to take in, mind you. I would like to see the proof. If you do have it. If you have it, I'll accept all responsibility and apologize here right now. It does sound like my behavior to joke about something, not stopping it for a period of time until until someone authoritative told me to stop. I think, and you don't have to take my word on this one, and I'm not saying you have to take my word on this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
B can tell you up front, and you still want to be referred to as B, if I'm correct.
I'm fine with either.
Yeah.
I hope that link still works.
I think
It's
private.
video unavailable.
Oh,
Video
okay.
private. Video is
Then
private. You need to unlist it.
Yes, I can actually maybe go directly in and I can share screen.
The
for
only
that
thing
section.
I would say is whenever I said the state, it's like I have a lot of euphemisms in my vocabulary, and some of those euphemisms are thankfully very much dead. Okay, that worked.
Okay.
I'm
Can everyone see the
watching.
video?
Yes.
All right, let me know when you're ready for me to play.
Now, this is an explanation, not an excuse. And Ponder can back me up on this. It's been an issue I've had since, it seems, since childhood. Now, when I say stuff like that, I was insinuating in the sense of you were kissing up.
Okay, but that's not what you said.
I know that's not what I said.
Yes, and that is the problem.
I'm just explaining.
Okay. I understood what you meant by the innuendo, but the innuendo was still sexually charged at me, and when I told you to stop, you didn't stop.
That is where I was getting to the actual explanation.
Okay.
So, I have many disabilities that I have been learning that I am on the spectrum of. And again, not an excuse, an explanation. And you don't have to accept it. And if you don't want to be friends and you don't want to talk to me again about all this stuff, that is completely fair. And you have all the right in the world to not. I have issues understanding social cues to an extreme extent in several points. What I was getting at that, what I was taking in at that moment, which looking back at, I am kicking myself in the ass because it's clear as fucking day, that this is all everybody joking, because I was going off of the vibe or whatever you want to call it, the feeling or whatever you want of everybody joking around. Phagos was joking around in the call. Before that entire situation, we were joking around and talking about stuff. Does it make it right? No. Do you deserve an apology? Yes. The only reason why I'm bringing this up is because so you understand. That is all. I am not using it as a shield. I am not using it as a, you can't touch me because blank. I am saying it in the sense of you have the full right to not only distrust me, but dislike me, and I'd go all the way to say hate me if you feel that is needed. I want to make it very, 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 very clear. I in no way was trying to make advances towards you. I in no way was trying to, what's a good word for this, because I'm drawing a blank. I'm tired. I am in no way infatuated with you. I am in no way trying to coerce you. I am in no way trying to groom you or anything of that nature. Was my wording wrong? Yes. Should I have stopped? Absolutely. But my intentions And my intentions were to joke around, not to sexually harass.
Kayden, everyone knew Chuuli was a minor, and if you were trying to be funny, why was it always in a sexual nature?
Because that was my immature joking at the time. We can look at more, and we can look at adults that I have made jokes like that about. In fact, I never viewed that phrase as sexual at the time. I am clearly in the wrong, but what I'm saying of the time.
Okay, that doesn't work when my very first response to when you've said that was that is sexual harassment. That doesn't work. I immediately told you, and you didn't listen because you weren't taking me seriously. Even though I was very deadpan and uncomfortable when I did tell you to stop, you didn't listen. You didn't value that from me. And I know that it wasn't just humor, it was sexual humor. I know that you viewed it as raunchy and sexual, and I am wanting to just reiterate that.
Yeah. I'm listening.
I shouldn't have to come at you with any tone about that stuff because you shouldn't have been talking to me like that in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I told you to stop, you didn't stop. And the only time you did was when another adult told you to stop, whose opinion you respected.
And that's fair.
You can close the stream, B.
Yeah.
And I have the screenshots from when I came to very angry.
No, I'll take your word on it. No,
Okay.
I don't need evidence for every single thing. It's just my memory can be foggy at times.
Okay.
And this happened at what, 2018, 2019?
Yes.
Enough time for me to have other things be thrusted upon my plate since then. And I'm, again, not using that as an excuse. I'm using that as an explanation on why I may have forgotten. And you have the full right to be upset. You're right. What I said was inappropriate. I am in the wrong. I view myself as a changed person since then. That is all I can say, but that is my word against yours. Well, that's not a good for you know what I mean. That's my words, not my actions, and you'd have to see my actions to see if it's true.
I obviously can't say that that's true or false. But the fact that it happened at all, I think is already many steps way too far. Because had it just been you were mean to me or you talked down to me or whatever, that would be an okay, I understand that. But to repeatedly ignore my sexual boundaries, I don't really care if it was out of infatuation. I could tell that you didn't care about what I was comfortable with or not. And for you to not care about that in regards to a sexual boundary of a minor, a teenage girl, that is many, many steps way too far, in my opinion. And for that to happen multiple times, and not quietly, not me just laying down and taking it. I fought you. I didn't win, but I fought you. I feel like that's not something that just a private sorry can fix.
If I can step in with some contextual clarification. Kayden, before we got into the call with Chuuli and Clown, you clarified that some of Chuli's overt aggressiveness was what led to you blocking them on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we've traced back some of the aggression, and we've sort of come to the understanding that it may have specifically been as a result of instances like this, not just with you, but with, like I mentioned earlier, Digby, Raz, V Omega, fucking Faye Ghost, friend, whatever the hell her name was, where people constantly disrespected boundaries that Chuuli set up with regards to sexual inferences, sexual nature, sexual jokes, quote unquote, or sexual content. And the only way that Chuuli was able to shut down those conversations was to start to get aggressive. Because that was the only instance where people started to take them seriously. Or at the very least, that was the only way that they started to back down. So, in the present day, a lot of Chuli's aggression may specifically have been the result of behavior like this that was inflicted upon them when they were a minor and the constant violation of their boundaries.
For more context, when people, adult men, started being sexual with me when I was a 14 and 15-year-old, I didn't have that boundary yet. I didn't know how to stop that. And so I believe, after thinking about this for a long time, I believe I was, oh yeah, that person. I don't even think it was by one specific person. I believe that you are included in that group, because even though you didn't, according to you, mean to groom or do anything to sexually benefit you, I was still groomed by several adults into believing that my role whenever they became sexual was to entertain that, including you.
Okay, I have to challenge that. I'm trying to be as understanding and accepting of my role in a lot of this.
Yes.
But there is a moment I have to step in and say I can't take responsibility for their actions.
Kayden, I'm not asking you to take responsibility for others' actions. I'm asking you to take responsibility for the part you played in a group effort.
It may not have been like a coordinated thing, but when there are like multiple different people sort of doing similar, not necessarily the same things, but similar things to an individual, to that individual, it would feel like, especially in the past tense, it would feel like this was like a lot of people all working towards the same goal. Maybe not like maliciously, maybe not in a coordinated effort, but like the behavior was similar enough that there's a correlation. or maybe not a correlation, but it's similar.
You're one of
The things
many.
I'll take responsibility on, and I'm saying this right now, and I'm trying to be as fair as possible, is not respecting your boundaries, is not respecting you as a person in the sense of your requests, and not respecting any authority that you clearly deserved based off of the fact of who you were as not only a minor, but as how do I say this? Not gendered, but in a sense of, because I don't want to I don't want to assume anything of your current gender of or whatever, but of your position of what you were assigned at birth, I am assuming. Because I don't know what the situation is. We have lost touch to the point where we're clearly no longer talking. The thing that I will not... What I'm basically saying is I take responsibility for my actions and my actions alone. And what others may have interpreted from that one is on them. I fucked up.
What do you mean by that?
If they inferred, oh, this is okay from me trying to be a jokey edgelord at the age of 27, which is something as cringeworthy as a statement as a jokey edgelord at the age of 27, is not solely on me. That is also on them, and I do not take responsibility for something of what they would do in that entire ethos.
I should clarify, I don't think there were instances where other people who were around and who saw your behavior looked at it and thought that it was okay. I think that those specific people were probably already going to do it. However, I would like to point out that in instances where someone is going to go after a vulnerable party and they already see instances where someone is violating a person's boundaries and it's not really being, like, those boundaries are not really being respected, that does sort of indicate to them, oh, this is a potential target. So that may not have been the case with people like Raz or Carmen or Digby, but V Omega was in our circle for a while. Faye Ghost was in our circle for a while, both of whom victimized Chuuli. And if they got it in their head that Chuuli was a potential target because they did see Chuli's boundaries being violated and it, you know, sort of played off in a joking manner, that would be an issue. They would still be responsible for their own actions in choosing to victimize someone, but you can't really downplay that, like, your behavior would have indicated Chuuli as a potential target.
I'm accepting that part.
Okay.
Everything else outside of that,
everything
the stuff that I am taking responsibility for. Like, I accept that I made that environment inadvertently, and I am responsible for making that environment, and I am in the wrong for making that environment. But I am not going to take responsibility of Phagos being a scumbag fucking piece of shit.
That's fine.
Is all I'm saying.
We're not asking you to.
I never.
No, I'm shaking right now because it's a lot.
It's okay.
A lot to take in. Because, like, you're not used to hearing how bad you fuck up until it's too late. And then whenever it's too late, it's, to be fair, usually would be a lot louder than what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
I understand that, but that is not what happened here. You were told that you were fucking up in the moment.
I think he more means that, like,
you don't realize that until it's too late.
Yeah, he didn't understand
that,
the full context of, like,
which
how
is
that...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, okay.
What,
I think it's more a matter of like he didn't understand the full context of how that comes together, like when all the pieces are put together rather than individual instances where it's just like, oh, you were being inappropriate, oh, you need to stop.
Yeah.
I understand that. I don't even think this is necessarily what you were saying, B, but I understand that, like, context puts things into perspective. Because what I originally was saying was that I didn't have those boundaries because I was groomed by a environment full of adult men who taught me that I was supposed to entertain their sexuality. Until I was like halfway done with 16, in which case I finally started saying stop. And I wasn't listened to. By any men. You are not the sole man who did that. Every single man I asked to stop took it further when I said stop. Stop meant keep going. Including with you. That is what it meant to you. But at the same time, without the added context of what everyone else was doing to me. What you did on its own in a vacuum was still horrible. And I'm gonna hold on one second. My big point is that this isn't just a minor fuck up, you know? This is something that happened to me when I was a 16-year-old and 15-year-old and has stuck with me to where I am now halfway through 22, and I am now only recently finding evidence of why I felt so terrible in regards to a lot of the community and why I've had such a disdain in my memories with you.
That's fair. I won't go into detail, and I'm not going to make this a pity party, but I will say in a simple statement, I understand the exact feeling of having traumatizing experiences washed into your brain and being regurgitated in your 20s. So I can't fault you for feeling this and anything of that matter. And I am not going to excuse, well, I went through, no, there's no excuses here. I want to make this absolutely clear on my end. All I'm giving is explanations, zero excuses.
Okay. Tell me this. Do you understand that you weren't just being a jokester edgelord at the age of 27, 28? You understand that that's not what happened? Because if that happened, this would be a different story. But do you understand that?
Understanding it now or understanding it then?
No.
No.
I understand now. I was being an irresponsible adult. I was being a immature, I wouldn't say deceptive. I don't know why it's ringing in my head. It's just, I understand it now.
Okay.
That is what I'm trying to say. I understand it now. I understand also you deserve more than an apology. I understand that saying I'm sorry is not enough.
Are you?
And I understand.
Are you around anyone who's a minor?
No, I have made it an absolute mission in my life to stay away from minors. Until I am a parent in an appropriate situation. And at that point, it would be these entire phrases would be completely removed from my vernacular.
Okay.
But I have made it a goal to try to stay around adults. And if I'm ever around minors, my mouth is completely zipped. I am observing and staying the fuck away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel comfortable around interacting with minors in an online space. I've learned that from the 2010s. And I have made it an effort to, going back to the situation I was saying in January, where even whenever I was invited to a space like that, my experiences only tried to stay around adults my age or in their 20s, i.e. they're like 22, 23.
Okay. I'm thinking of how to transition into this next part. Oh, I don't know how much you've been keeping on what's been going on with like the SCC or whatever.
I've stayed mostly out of it.
The FCK.
I do know about that, though.
Okay. You know some of the adults that were in there.
Yes. I know everything post everything that happened in April. Beforehand, literally didn't even know that was a thing.
Okay. You saw what happened to the adults that were in there, right?
Yes.
How they were their
Yes.
transgressions were handled.
For the most part.
Okay. Just for total crystal clear clarification, Junkie was pulled onto a stream, eviscerated, and deleted his platforms. Susie just recently left the stream, or her platforms, because of what she allowed and how she talked about it. I can't remember any other ones. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think ZZ and Toasty are mostly just ignoring what happened, and Fuchsia I think took a hiatus. But I didn't want you to get pulled into a public space and yelled at and like just destroyed publicly. But I do think that just as what happened in that server, I feel like people deserve to know what happened.
In what way?
I feel like people in your immediate circle should know of the things that you did to a 15-year-old, to a 16-year-old, while you were 27, 28. You weren't a young adult. You weren't a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old. You were almost 30.
Okay.
And honestly, I have not even decided what I want to do with this information, because in my script for the video that I'm working on, I do talk about how I was sexually demeaned and exploited by adult men in this space. For context, as why Faghost hurt me so bad. And at that time, all I thought I had when I wrote it was me mentioning that I knew your sexual preferences as a 15-year-old. And I didn't think that was enough. I didn't know what to do with that, because that would have been hard for me to come forward about that, because other people, Digby, Raz, the Omega. They're already gone. They're already hated, and I have evidence for what they did to me.
I'm
so
not denying that.
That's not going to be like a big shock reveal. People still like you, and you have your little platform. And I thought I didn't have enough evidence of what happened, but it turns out that I had, I think, almost even more than I did with the other people. And there was a lot more that happened between us than what happened between those other people, minus Phagos and the Omega. And I was going to talk about them. And I was going to leave your name silent because I didn't think I had enough, and I didn't want to cause drama with just that one little crumb that I had. I still don't know what to do now that I have way more. And
sorry, if I could step in.
Yeah.
Chuuli and I assume with Clown as well, have discussed this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big concerns that Chuuli has is that even if she did decide to come forward with what she experienced, she would receive backlash for that. And technically speaking, we do have a precedent for that happening because that is exactly what happened with the Phagos situation. That is exactly what we expected to happen with the Phagos situation.
Mm-hmm.
Was, someone who had been hurt and was coming forward about how they were hurt was then vilified by the community to a disappointing degree. Now, one of the things that we discussed is that we don't think that you were being malicious, which is very different to people like the Omega, who had like a pattern of grooming people specifically in Chuli's camp, and then Phagos, who was just like malicious behind the scenes for years.
Yeah, I know. I was there for some of that.
So one of the things that we discussed, because Chuuli had expressed to me that there was this worry that you were in circles where like this kind of stuff might still be happening, and because she's not like communicating with you, there's no real way for her to be assured of that.
Mm-hmm.
Is we were hoping that you would talk about it, just as a matter of just acknowledging that it has happened, and that, you know, you've mentioned that you've made efforts to make sure that stuff like that is not going to happen again. You acknowledge that it was wrong. You acknowledge that you need to apologize for it, and that you were completely in the wrong and that it was not okay to do. Just, I think it would make Chuuli feel better if there was some sort of open acknowledgement of it, because it would be indicative, like, of a level of growth and of, like, I guess accountability would be the proper term here.
If I do this, I want to make sure it's in my own words.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
And not the account of what happened, but the account of how I viewed it at the time, and the account that I was in the wrong in anything of that nature. I'll record whatever needs to be recorded.
Oh, but that wasn't even what I... Chuuli, would you want Kayden to record a thing for the... That wasn't even what I was talking about. Would you
just
want
acknowledging it in social media?
I don't know.
Okay,
if I'm gonna be completely honest, the only thing I can do is acknowledge, if brought up, acknowledge it in the comment section. If recording is too much, and I understand recording would be too much, but the major thing is I have, again, my word against what you see or what you've experienced. Not only have I grown, but I was A, not a part of the FCK, B, not a part of the SCC, and see when I was part of Lio's fucking shitty ass server, I was in there and out like that because I was in there for what happened in January and January alone. I want nothing to do with this shit. I'm shaking just thinking that I'm even a part of this shit. Like, I can't stress to you enough, if I need to do something to clear up this situation and take acknowledgement, I'll do it. It's just understand, it needs to be in my words, or
Of course it would be.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all.
Can I ask a quick question, since B brought up the aftermath of the Fago stuff that Chuuli had faced? If I heard this correctly, you blocked Chuuli recently because of aggressions that she was having on Twitter. Did I hear that correctly?
So, I was going with the logic of why I was blocked in 2019. In the whole entire sense of what I thought was being conveyed, it was wrong. What I'm finding out today, I was just wrong. I thought it was being aggressive, being toxic around me, and like vague things like that. I did not know this is what it was.
Well,
And I thought it was just general aggression, general toxicity, and I viewed what happened in April as general aggression, general toxicity.
so
Not.
Do you
Not
know
few-
what she said to me?
I know what she said, and she's in the wrong.
Okay.
okay, that's all I wanted to know.
I viewed that entire situation of, I'm not a part of it. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm not a part of it.
I should clarify that we are aware. I think certain people forgot that I was in a certain server at the time, and I could see what was being
Yes.
said. We are aware that you were one of the 2 people who defended Chuuli at the time.
I want to make this clear, though, about that specifically alone.
Mm-hmm.
A, no one forgot that you were in the server.
Oh, so people
And-
just openly said that, knowing that I could see it.
Yes.
That's way more disgusting. Thank you. I love that.
Amazing.
Well, the only people that knew were people like me, or people who were staying out of it 100%. People who are, if you've seen that, basically the people who are in the Fiendish Cavern and the people who are in Mary Skeleton War, excluding maybe a handful of people, I don't know their fucking intentions. I was more referring to, like, let's say Blaze is in both servers and she saw that you were in a call with Heaton, and then you immediately left that call with Heaton to go to a call with Chuuli.
Mm-hmm.
And we felt, and I'm being transparent here, that was underhanded.
I'm sorry.
What? How?
Because, Ponder, you should know, one of the major, and it seems now, triggers for Heaton is purposely going into other servers to specifically talk shit behind her back.
I'm sorry.
Okay. One, if that is the case, I don't understand why Heaton does that to others. 2, I was not shit-talking Heaton behind her back. I jumped into a call to hear Heaton's perspective on why she tweeted what she tweeted.
Okay.
And then I jumped into a call with Chuuli to support Chuuli after Chuuli put out the Faghost video, because clearly she needed it.
Because of what Heaton was tweeting.
Oh, I'm thinking of different fucking times.
What?
I am
What are you
talking I'm talking about what happened just recently. Not around the time of the Phagos video. Around the time of the Phagos video,
When was this recently?
April.
April? What?
When
tell me
Chuuli started going off on Heaton nonstop on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
This past April
Okay.
is what I'm referring to. Around that time. As for what happened in 2019, 2020, I don't even fucking remember when the Phagos situation
It was 2021.
Thank you.
Do you remember
When
what was
that
being discussed in the call that I jumped out of with Heaton?
No.
Okay.
I'm just seeing bodies moving and correlating items in my head.
Okay, well, for clarification, and this is something that I expressed to Heaton,
Okay.
my trust in her and a good chunk of people in the community was severed when the Twitter thread came out. I distanced myself from a lot of people. I forgot about why I did it, and it took me a long time to remember, why do I feel like a tightness in my chest whenever I'm around these individuals? I expressed this to Heaton. I am trying to open up those doors again, but Heaton is very much aware that I think that she was in the wrong and that she was completely inappropriate in that moment. And I'm allowed to be friends with Chuuli.
I am not here to defend Heaton. I am here showing and trying to get understand. If anything, I have some questions as well about that entire fucking pocket dimension of these past few months, and it was just answered. That's all I needed to hear.
I should also clarify, for the majority of the last few months I have not been on Twitter. I literally don't know the full extent of what Chuuli has been tweeting. I know Chuli's been talking about Heaton. I do not know the full extent of it. Heaton knows that I'm trying to keep the peace. I'm trying to be friends.
Okay.
But it is a struggle.
I do want to clarify this then. This is my opinion. This was my viewpoint alone. I'm not speaking for Heaton. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm speaking for myself. And what I saw was obviously wrong. And I apologize for making that assumption.
Oh, okay. I had to understand what you meant by that. It took me a second. You're meaning that, like, your perception of things was incorrect.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
And I don't know what was happening in those calls, because the majority of the time whenever those calls were happening, it's either I was in the middle of something or I was just trying to stay in my own little
Wait,
Kayden
so
bubble.
you saw that I was in a call with Heaton, and then I jumped into a call with Chuuli, and you assumed that I was shit-talking Heaton in that call with Chuuli because I jumped into that call?
Yeah, that was a pretty bold assertion, saying that it was underhanded when you don't even know what happened.
Like, if I'm trying to be friends with both of them, obviously I'm going to, every once in a while, jump into calls with both of them, and every once in a while that's gonna be like back to back sometimes. If I'm in a call with Heaton, and if I'm remembering correctly, I was in a call with multiple people, because every time I'm in a call with Heaton in Skeleton Server, or Married Skeleton War, whatever the hell it's called, I can't remember. It's with multiple people.
Yeah. This is where... Sorry, if you hear a cat in the background, that's all.
It's fine.
This is where my predicament comes in. Explanation, excuse, you get the idea. For the past 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, past 7 years, I have been going from friend group, social circle to friend group, social circle, where that was the pattern of behavior.
Oh, with the shit talking?
Shit talking behind their back and in purpose circles where everybody can see.
Mm-hmm.
And needless to say, when I see something that even has a grain that looks like it snaps in my brain that is happening.
I should clarify. We have spoken about Heaton, but it's in the context of Heaton's thread and how it made us feel and how we felt that it was inappropriate. We have been, what's the word? Cooing doesn't seem like the right word, but like reassuring one another that like our feelings on the matter were valid. And for additional clarification, when we first came back together and started talking about it, we were not sure. And me in particular, I was not sure that what I was seeing in the thread was what I was seeing. I thought I was being uncharitable. I wasn't sure that I wanted to give Heaton the benefit of the doubt that the victim blaming I saw in the thread was not actually victim blaming. So I started going around to other people within the community, hiding the fact that these tweets came from Heaton, and asking people what they would think about a Twitter thread that contained some of the things that were in that thread. At no point did I say that it was Heaton until I was in a call with Linlin and Aaron recognized exactly who I was talking about. And when he asked me, I was truthful about it because I didn't want to lie. But I was going around asking people their perspective because I wanted to give Heaton the benefit of the doubt and not believe that that thread was quite as bad as it was. And the consensus that I got was not great.
Okay. And I'm sorry for rushing to assertions. I'm sorry for making that assumption this recently. The only thing I could say is, to my experience, is I have dealt with this too many goddamn times that it's just something I immediately go to be protective of myself.
I understand.
Yeah, I can get that.
Yes.
I have been talking about Heaton in the context of we were all hurt by what Heaton did. It wasn't
therapeutic in a therapeutic sense, yes.
And Heaton has specified that Chuli's allowed to be mad at her forever. I've been trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I can't deny the fact that that thread hurt and it caused harm.
And I'm not here to deny that either.
Yes.
In fact, as you said before, when that happened, I was one of the few people defending Chuuli. I know exactly what happened. And I am not here, and what I'm saying is, during the Phagos situation, I knew exactly what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I had more information than other people had.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why because I was in one of those calls and you all informed me of the false story that he decided to throw at us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That does concern me a bit. When Heaton found that Chuuli was making a video, she specifically came to me and asked if I was helping Chuuli make a video shitting on her. Am I to assume that Heaton believes that I am conspiring against her behind the scenes? Because I'll say it right now for clarification, I am the one who decided that Heaton would not be named in our Phagos video.
Okay. And I can't speak for her. That's all I can say. The trust thing in this whole entire miasma of bullshit. If you want my complete honesty, I wish you removed my permission for that server as well, so I don't have to fucking see it anymore. Because there are several moments where it's kind of a circle jerk. No one's it's and there are moments where you can point at like, yeah, that's just them venting what fucked shit happened at a fucking Panera Bread or some bullshit like that.
Well, that's
But
why I
then
cited Heaton. Heaton may talk about how it's triggering for her specifically to know that people are shit talking about her behind the scenes, but that is the type of behavior I would see in that chat when I had access.
Same. And that is one of the reasons why I kind of muted it a majority of the fucking time.
Yeah.
I'm not here denying shit. I'm here agreeing. Like it's one of the reasons why I'm like full transparency. While I still consider several people in that server my friends, I have been distancing myself from that server for a new group of friends that I've been having as of late that have been more beneficial for my health, beneficial for my mental stability, and beneficial for my growth. And that is the juxtaposition, I guess, of how I feel about that. So I'm right there with you, is what I'm saying. Like it's hypocritical on their end.
I'm wondering now, I don't know if this is really relevant to the conversation, but if Heaton is concerned about shit talking to the point where it affects her mental health, I completely understand. And I also understand your stance on going through friend group after friend group because of constant shit talking. I also literally experienced that. I understand all of that. However, when it comes to Heaton's actions, they were extremely harmful, and they were public.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So Chuuli making tweets in a certain fashion that may seem a lot to some people, considering just the impact that her threat had on not only Chuuli but also me and B to an extent. It's hard for me to be like. I can't really think of the proper word, but you understand where I'm coming from. Like, her actions were were public and were extremely aggressive, so Chuuli making her stance known on, like, the hurt that she faced should not be seen as, like, taking it too far. This was all public.
I'm not saying that you said this, but, like, just for, like, to clarify where I stand on this, I don't think I should have to watch my tone with someone who brags about how she'll always be able to outscream anyone.
Yes.
And brags about how people love her aggressive tone. Because when it comes back at her, she got what she put in.
And she obviously it affected her badly. That's why I think it's kind of ridiculous knowing that she's in a server where she has a vent chat where people literally just talk shit, but yet that's how it affects her mental health. That's not healthy. So,
actually, Chuuli, I apologize that we've sort of overtaken the conversation at this point, but I do want to fill Kayden in on something. Heaton and I got into a call in late 2023 to discuss the thread and my tumultuous trust in her and other members in the community. In that call, as I was, talking about the victim blaming and the tone policing and how inappropriate it was and how damaging it was, Heaton asked, if tone policing is such an issue, why didn't I speak up when Spoctor tone policed her? And I bring this up specifically because I think it sheds a little light. I'm not even sure on what. It's just one of those things that really stands out. She asked why I didn't speak up when Spoctor tone policed her. Completely. I don't want to say ignoring because that seems malicious, but not acknowledging that I also directly didn't confront her when she tone policed Chuuli at the time, which had happened literally a month before that. So she put out a damaging thread that made us question our own victimhood and confirmed a lot of fears that we had that the community would not believe us if we came forward. Didn't really just contributed to that, and then asked why a month later, after she had done that to us, why I didn't speak up and help her because she was struggling.
Okay.
It's I don't know. It's one of those things that really I don't even remember most of that call, but it's one thing that really stands out, that Keaton can do so much harm and not acknowledge the extent of the harm that she does, and then still expect you to speak up in her defense. And I'm not saying that this is like a malicious thing. I'm saying it's something I've been a little concerned about. It's one of the things that has made it difficult to trust her. It's one of the things that I am trying so very desperately to get past, I guess, so that I can open the door for trust. But the fact that those experiences are there
makes it hard.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be civil. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to give Heaton the benefit of the doubt. But I'm gonna be real. I'm glad that you agree that Chuli's in the right here.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can at least get some agreements on that. It's very much appreciated.
Because, yeah, the only side that I've gotten flack for still being friends with the other side is not this side. Chuli's been really understanding about the fact that I'm trying to keep the peace.
Mm-hmm.
I have a simple rule, and I have said this a billion times over, and I will say it until I'm on my deathbed. If you ever say the statement, it's either me or them, I will choose them every time. Unless, and I will clarify this, it is something clearly heinous.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's implied.
Yeah.
Of course.
Julie,
Yes.
I can't stress how apologetic I am of my actions in the past. I'm still trying to figure out things about myself to this very day. I'm not asking you to be my friend. I am not asking you to let it go or let it live in the past, because I know that is not how this works. I am just hoping that someday that you and I can reconcile and move on. Not be friends and reconcile, just move forward with our lives.
I don't think I could do that right now. Because essentially right now I'm experiencing it all again with new eyes and perspective on just how bad what was happening to me. Like, just how bad the things that were happening to me, how bad they were. And I would like your cooperation on what would help me through this. Which,
Can you give me 1 second? I need to change headphones.
okay.
Batteries. Okay, I'm back.
I would like for you to tell your inner circle what happened, because I feel like that's not something that can just be swept under the rug. Especially now that it's seeming that I'm reviving these memories for you, if you have them at all, or just making you aware of the fact that they happened. I do want you to say something publicly. I don't know to the extent of how I want that yet. That is something that I'm going to have to think over. I would like that from you. And personally, I would like it if you took some time to yourself, to your friend group, to ideally, but I know it's hard in this country, and I believe in your state, any kind of therapy.
I have.
Okay. I would
I'll bring it up in my next session.
Okay. I would like you to take some time just to yourself, to therapy, to your friends, and just kind of, I don't know, sit with the knowledge of what happened to fully understand over the course of some time, to help let it marinate for you, as I'm trying to do for me. Because I don't think I want you to just continue on publicly like nothing happened. I don't think that would do me any favors. Or you, I think you would benefit from taking some time away from the public to sit with these new revelations of the things that you did and better yourself from them.
I'll do the best that I can. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That's a lot.
I understand, but what happened to me was a lot. And I didn't ask for that.
Okay.
Okay. Whenever I think it through and come to an understanding of what I believe would make me feel the best going forward between us, I will either, I will probably ask B to get back to you on it.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna leave. I don't know if we've said everything we needed to say. If anyone else has anything else they need to add.
The only thing I can really say is just I hope you understand the severity of your actions.
I do.
Yeah. And understand where we are coming from on a lot of things that, and a lot of your opinions of Chuuli, I hope have changed now.
They have.
Good. Because a lot of what my friend has faced has been extremely unfair, and just not appropriate for a long time, and I'm thankful that you understand a lot of things, so yeah.
We do appreciate that you have been receptive.
I try my best.
I'm sure you all found that very interesting. Chuuli was very patient with Kayden, and showed him more grace than I probably would have in that situation. Of note is not only that he's lied to others about the content and direction of this call, but he tried to throw Sinet, a server that only ever helped him, under the bus. But also, right after this call, he went into Heaton's server to complain about it. In the very chat he was complaining about. Classy. Also of note is Kayden asking the same questions about Ponder hopping into different calls that Blaze later did herself. Almost as if they were both hoping to have some opening to pivot into. Fascinating. Since Chuuli's video, Kayden has hit the video with a privacy notice and tried very hard to continue to obfuscate what happened. So has Blaze, with Blaze apparently acting like she didn't know what Kayden was being accused of. Fun fact about that. She was told, right after the call I just played, because Ponder got in call with her and walked her through it. Look, lying never really works out, so I don't get why people only double down on it. If Kayden had just owned all of this and Blaze learned to be quiet for 5 seconds, things wouldn't have escalated like this. But here we are. You can check Chuuli's community posts if you want more info. I'll go ahead and let you all go for now. I've got more stuff to do, so I'll see you next time. Take care.